Good day, YouTube. Just a quick word of caution for you. This week I talk about some material that might stir up some stuff for you, some thoughts or feelings that are uncomfortable. If that's the case, I do have a playlist for you, Mental Health Essentials, that might help with some basic understanding and navigating those uncomfortable feelings. But I truly believe that there's no content you're going to find on YouTube that's a substitute for actually working with someone in your area that you can get to know, that can get to know you, that can help you navigate those stresses. I think you deserve that support. I hope that you will seek it out. In the meantime, let's check out this week's content. Good day, YouTube. I'm Daniel Claremont. I'm the Acadian therapist. Welcome back to lovely rural Nova Scotia. I hope that you're doing well. People come to therapists because they want to make changes in their life, or, as we talked about last week, someone else wants them to make changes in their life. By the way, this is episode 5 of the Roadmap for Change playlist. You can find it here. If you're a completionist, you can go back to chapter 1 and work your way up to here, or if you just want to parachute in here, or if you're just interested in this topic in particular, that's fine. There are standalone episodes. People want to make changes because they want to, or someone else has wanted them to. Sometimes they've worked at it for years or decades and they feel really stuck and really frustrated. Now, sometimes the reason for that is they're working towards a goal, but it's not aligned with their values. Now, that's meaning of life stuff. Reasons why you want to do the thing. What is it rooted in? Is it an actual fact, or is it just something that you were taught? So this week, that's what we're talking about. Where did you get that idea that something was important and important enough to work at, sacrifice for, pay for? This could be a controversial episode. In fact, I expect it will be. I'm going to sling some different ideas your way. Now, it's really clear for you. I want to make it very clear. I'm not saying I know better than anybody, but I just want to present some different ideas, some different ways of looking at things. And if it makes you uncomfortable, well, maybe I'm wrong. Or maybe I'm right, and it's forcing you to think about something a little bit differently. And that's what we want. We want to question. Because when you're questioning, when something makes you uncomfortable, well, it's telling you something about yourself, about the world, about the person that you're listening to, that bears curiosity and questioning. And maybe it helps you recognize a stumbling block, something that's been getting in your way that you had never considered. And so it allows you to adjust course, adjust how you're approaching this goal, and maybe achieve more success than you've managed in the past. So I hope you'll stick with me. We're going to talk about some uncomfortable things, but we'll also talk about strategies to work with that discomfort. As always, if you see value in this content, please feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe. All these things help support my work here. Let's go. We have a lot to cover. So I'm going to use the example of losing weight. I think that that's a pretty common goal that people have had at one point or another. You stand in front of the mirror, maybe after a long holiday weekend, or maybe a few months of indulging in some extra fatty foods or different things, and you notice a couple of extra rolls, maybe an extra chin where there wasn't one before, or some clothes are not fitting the way they do, and you have a reaction. So maybe you look in the mirror, you say, oh, I'm getting fat, and I don't like that. Now maybe you instantly start policing yourself for that thought. You say, I'm not supposed to feel that way. So what you're reacting to is you don't like your appearance. You don't like how you look. And then you realize maybe, well, that's not a good enough reason. So we say it's for my health. And that's why I want to lose weight. So you have a secret motive that you're not aware of. Now, it's important to recognize that some of these motives will just show up for us. And despite the judgments we put on ourselves, they're very natural. Will Storr talks about, in his book, The Status Game, he talks about different games that we all play, and they're not nice games necessarily. They don't fit our values or our morals or how we want to see ourselves or other people, but they're very natural. Now, that doesn't mean we're stuck with them, but it means that they're going to show up. And you cannot work on a goal. You cannot work on a stereotype or a stigma or a bias if you don't know that you have it, if you're not honest with yourself about having it, and maybe even forgiving yourself for that. So that's the first check. If you're trying to get that beach body, or you want to look good on that dating profile, or you want to stay appealing in your relationship, be honest with yourself. You are linking the notion of fat, or whatever the goal is you're working on, to desirability or status or appearance, and that's okay. Part of why you have that, by the way, is social influences and media influences. Sometimes from multiple generations, we have been fed a narrative that to be desirable, to be attractive, to be healthy is linked to a certain weight, a certain skin color, a certain accent, a certain level of wealth. There's a lot of factors that we are sold on, and then we internalize, and then we feel like crap when we don't match up to that. Now, that doesn't mean we can't aspire for some of those things. So if your body feels better, if you feel more attractive, if you feel more confident, if you do something different, maybe that's okay. But be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself, because you're going to have to make some sacrifices if you want to accomplish that. That's what this whole playlist is about, is those sacrifices. So know what you want to do, why you want to do it, what's it going to cost you. In terms of cultural influences, by the way, I want to remind you about the concept of intergenerational trauma. So sometimes we will have multi-generational assumptions. Take systemic racism would be a very good example, and systemic sexism, multi-generational sexism, where we develop the idea that women are a certain way, men are a certain way. Well, it's really hard to say what women are, what men are. Of course, there's other genders beyond just that binary as well, right? But our assumptions and our beliefs about what makes a good woman, good man, good mother, good father, responsible adult, well, this is related to multiple generations of religious and cultural, geographical factors, most of which we don't even know. And so this is why I would say it's really problematic to say, I'm not racist, I'm not sexist, I'm not homophobic, when we have to recognize, well, we all are in different extents, and that doesn't make us bad. It means we're going to do harmful things. And the most responsible way I know of to address that and to work on it is to be honest and say, I will transgress, I will offend people sometimes, and forgive myself for my humanity. But it's not to walk around with a shield saying, that's not me. It's to say, it's going to be me, and I'm so sorry, and I'm going to acknowledge it when someone points it out, and I'm going to try to work on it so that I don't pass on the same intergenerational stress. So again, hard honesty to reflect on what shapes my idea of what's healthy, appropriate, normal, right, questioning it, questioning in a curiosity way. So to say, I wonder where that comes from. What have I normalized? Where did that come from? Do I want to pass that on to my kids? Do I want to perpetuate that on social media? So just a few more thoughts on that. Another important motivator for us to talk about is fear-based motivators. And so sometimes we fear being judged by others, we fear being rejected if we don't make a change. Sometimes that's very rational. People have explicitly told us, I'm going to leave you if you don't do this. Or we fear being rejected by our peers. We saw a lot of that polarization. We're going to see more of that polarization between left and right, where people forget to view each other as humans. You say, oh, you're one of those people. You follow that person, you follow that belief. Well, you're not one of my people. So it's sort of this tribalism that takes effect. We kind of clump with people that share our beliefs, and it gets harder to be open-minded. Unfortunately, that opens us up to a lot of blindness and we can get linked to goals that are really not good for us or even good for the society or the planet. So recognizing those fear-based motives, notice, do you have a fear about this goal? Do you have a fear of letting it go? Well, that doesn't mean you need to abandon it, but you need to look at it. In my opinion, fear is not the best motivator because it's very punishing. What it leads to is you better maintain this or else. So you're never done. You've never achieved it. You don't get that serenity. Whatever it is you're working on, the hope is at some point it's just maintainable and you can drop your guard and just enjoy your life. And so if you only have fear, well, you want to look at that and try to find some more values. So things that enrich you, things that would make your life better when you have this goal. What will you be proud of? So reflecting on what life will be like when you accomplish this. It's also important to be realistic. So, for example, eating disorders exist. It's very, very common. And what an eating disorder relates to is sort of an obsession with a certain appearance that is not linked to their body's health. And so the body starts to experience symptoms. We start to become obsessed with a number or a certain image, which is not realistic. It's not realistic for ourselves, our body type, our culture, whatever that is. People will do all kinds of toxic and harmful things to their bodies in pursuit of a body that they have come to believe is healthy for them. And that's not actually accurate. And so that's very dangerous, it's very destructive in the long run. We talked before in the Tiny Habits video about developing systems to break down goals into small pieces. Well, one important component of that is ability. Do you have the ability to accomplish this thing? Is it safe for you to do so? Is it practical for you to do so? So that's an important question you've got to ask yourself. So that's all I had for you this week. I am sorry if I made you uncomfortable this week, but if you were uncomfortable, the discomfort was probably already there, and I just helped bring it to the surface. And that's hard sometimes when people make us look at something different and it brings up feelings. I personally dislike that process, but it is part of the process of learning. Maybe it helps you think a little differently about your goals. Maybe you pitch the goal, so maybe you give up the idea of losing weight because you realize what you actually do want is health and you want to feel stronger. So maybe you have more exercise, or maybe you drink some more water and you pitch the scale. So this allows you to refine the goal, to make the goal more aligned with your values. If your goal hasn't changed, then now you have more of a sense of what you need to sacrifice and why, and you're honest about the work ahead of you. Maybe you pace yourself differently. Maybe instead of losing 20 pounds in a week, which I don't think would be generally healthy, maybe you spread it out over 20 weeks or 30 weeks or 40 weeks. Maybe you're more realistic about what needs to be done. You're more compassionate to yourself. You know why you're doing it, and you make peace with that reason for that goal, or you embrace it. Or maybe if you decide to pitch that goal, you become more of an advocate. You say, you know what, this used to be important to me, but I realized my reasons for doing it were lousy. They were influenced by rules that were laid down by an organization 200 years ago, and I don't need to keep doing it. Either way, you're in a different place. You're not feeling stuck, and you're not shaming yourself for not accomplishing something that was never really your path in the first place. I hope you will be kind to yourselves as you continue to walk the path, and we will see you again next week.